Now, the bail application by a group of alleged hostage-taker military veterans has been postponed to tomorrow. The 56 veterans made their court appearance today. Defence Minister Thandi Modise, her deputy, Thabang Makwetla, and Minister in the Presidency Mondli Gungubele said they were blocked from leaving after a meeting. Barry Bateman is our reporter who's following this case for us. Barry, thanks for making time. I think the first point to touch on is how there was a postponement that was being pushed for. What was the reason for that?
Yeah, good afternoon, Clement. The state wanted the postponement, and I mean, you've been in court as many times as I have, and you see it quite often after the arrest of some suspects. The state would want to confirm certain information. In this particular case, we've got, it's actually 53 accused. I think there were 56 that were arrested, but 53 that appeared in court. And they needed to confirm their home addresses as they were stated. They needed to also check their profiles. The state, as they do, they would check if any of the accused have any pending cases, criminal records and the like. Well, the state arguing quite strongly that they needed 7 days to conduct these investigations and these background checks. The magistrate wasn't very persuaded at all from the very beginning, questioning, well, you've had the whole weekend, why didn't you get stuck down and do this? The response from the defence, or the state rather, was that the profilers, the people tasked in this particular team to do this kind of work, simply weren't available over the weekend, and the officers that were available, a very small team of 5, had their hands full with processing the 53, as well as the statements from the complainants in the matter.
Yeah. Well, from what I saw, the defence looked not impressed as well. They were putting up a fight. What did they say?
Well, it was Dolly Mpofu. You can imagine he's not going to go down without a good fight against the state, arguing essentially that the state has put forward a non-case, that what they have put on the table today wasn't complete. They're alleging what he was referring to as provisional charges that were put down. The state saying, well, we will have a more complete charge sheet when we get to that stage in a week's time, when we're able to gather that information. Mpofu not backing down, saying you are unlawfully incarcerating these men. This is a violation of their rights, that they should be released based on what you've presented here. There simply isn't a case. But Dolly Mpofu really stressing that point. Take a listen to what he had to say in some of these arguments.
Really nothing to alleviate the burden that is on the state. At least if we were saying there's insufficient, it would be something, but there's zero. There's nothing to justify. And we live in a culture of justification. You cannot take somebody's rights, lock them up in some room, and then not be able to justify it. It's just as simple as that. If there's any kidnapping that has happened, it looks like it's the kidnapping of the persons here, because there's no lawful. We're not told of any lawful reasons why they are kept in custody. So it's no different than me taking them and locking them up in my garage. And the state, unfortunately, cannot do that. If I can do it, then the state also cannot do it. It can't take human beings and lock them up for no cause. Court must be in a position to assess whether the state has done everything in its power. And that's what your worship was trying to establish, which we appreciate. Because if your worship was satisfied that there's some reason, let's make an example of non-cooperation, then the state, your worship might be sympathetic. My learned friend, of course, is correct that the test is the interest of justice. But the interest of justice against what in this case?
So what was the court's final decision, Barry?
Well, His Worship was not convinced, Clement, by the arguments presented by the state, and he has ordered that we will get down to the bail application tomorrow. So 10 o'clock tomorrow, we'll be back at the Kgosi Mampuru Correctional Centre at the prison court to hear this bail application proceed. Yeah, before we let you go, speak to us about what the veterans are saying themselves, because they're saying no crime was committed here. How are they supporting that claim? Yeah, they're quite vehement about this, saying they actually feel that they've been treated unfairly here. They say that how they got to this point is a culmination of more than a year of negotiations with various government and ANC officials. And what happened last week, Thursday, they say was nothing more than, they were having the negotiations. He referred to some of the statements that had been issued by the ministers involved, saying that even they downplayed this as a hostage situation. I was speaking to one of the leaders earlier today, and he was talking about why they believe this is unfair.
The reason why we are saying these charges are unfair, it's because We have been with this government official for quite some time. You remember, we started this discussion with the government last year, and we spent almost November and December together negotiating, as well as early January. And it came as a surprise when a meeting is arranged. In fact, when we are invited by them to the meeting, understanding that we are going to meet the Deputy President, to our surprise, we met the two new ministers. We are saying the two new ministers because initially we started this discussion with the late Mr. Mthembu, as well as from the defense, Nosiviwe. If they were held against their will, I think even in their interview, in their press conference, they told the public that they were singing and dancing with us. So if it was against their will, they were supposed to tell the public that it was. But how can you come out and say, in fact, we were singing and dancing together, but when you go out, you say it was against your will?